How are you going now? James Whelan here, Managing Director of Barclay Pierce Capital's Wealth Management Team, joined by Jack Colreevy, Chief Senior Analyst here also as part of the Barclay Pierce Capital team. I'm going to get rid of the fake glasses for another episode of Off the Cuff. Thank you for joining us. That name is still in progress. Jack, we've just finished 3 amazing days at the RIU Resources Roundup. That's the only time that I'm going to call it that. I'm just going to call it the mining conference that was in Sydney. We saw a lot of companies. We saw a lot of presentations. We actually had a lot of one-on-ones. What was your main takeaway on the spot?
All that glitters is gold, I guess.
Yeah.
No, chatting to, there were a lot of gold companies there, but then there were also contractors in the resources industry, and the gold industry is what's keeping the WA economy afloat at the moment.
Yeah.
Iron ore's doing okay. It's actually holding up really well, but outside of that, lithium's still struggling. Copper, there's not really any copper in WA, and nickel's terrible as well. So
nickel's not good.
They're very lucky to sort of have gold. Few uranium guys as well. I think they're the guys in WA with uranium assets. They seem pretty bullish that based off the election that there might be some movement
in
around uranium bans and things like that. Mainly because that green vote has been sort of the Greens sort of not doing too well, gives them flexibility in order to sort of shift mandates and things like that.
That's true, and I did have some interesting takeaways as well. Is that a company can have, it's that you've got your gold set up and you've got your copper set, and that's sort of your main things, and all these other little side pieces that were sort of down that you've got potentially other little minor commodities that were in your potential hole in the ground if you're a pre-production. Something happens in China, and all of a sudden that goes to the front of your press releases. Antimony was one of the ones that came up a year or two ago. I was actually last year in antimony, but some of these other some of the rare earths that crop up that were a part of there, it turns out, we've actually got a lot of that particular thing, and we're going to see more as the globalization story starts to expose itself more, that potentially it is over, the globalization. China comes in and stops exporting a certain thing, as they did with rare earths a couple of weeks ago. You're going to see the companies finding that they actually do have small amounts of these resources will actually be quite valuable. Some of these small stocks, so just have dust off some of these ones and see what they've actually got potentially in the ground. Check out some of the core samples that they've got, showing that they've actually got some very small things, and I'm very interested in that. My other main takeaway was things out of the US. There was an interest in companies that are in the US or in North America and their assets that are there. Again, sort of in that similar theme, that the feeling that the largest economy in the world is going to want things grown in the US.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of focus on companies that were there. I was making a special little list and contacts with companies
particularly around energy as well. So I'm keeping a close eye on uranium stocks that have US assets.
Yep.
It's quite a high cost place to sort of do business, but with slashing regulations around this, and then they're going to probably throw money at these sorts of things. So I think there's a lot of incentives around there. So
all right. Well, look, that's about it. We've got to go into everything else. Everything else is sort of in our own little secret cave here, which we keep to be able to be better with clients that we can have and try and make people some money and also protect some wealth as we go along too. Speaking of which, now is a great time to talk about your portfolio. Have a look at some of those smaller holdings, a bit of tax loss selling potentially at this particular time in the market, and maybe have a look at some realignments. If you want to talk about your portfolio, you want to talk about where it's aligned, reach out and give me a bit of a shout, and I can have one of my guys have a look at it for you here too. Thanks very much, Jack.
No worries.
A good week, mate, and have a good weekend. Everyone stay safe.